They packed my life into a cardboard box before I even woke up. I opened my eyes to the sterile flicker of the overhead light, the hum of the hallway television bleeding through the door. My back ached the way it always did in the morning, though lately, morning meant whatever time the staff decided to open the blinds. I reached for my slippers, found only one, and then saw the box. It sat at the foot of my bed like a silent accusation. My past condensed. "What's this?" I asked nobody in particular, though I knew someone had done it. The box was taped shut, but not well. A corner peeled up, revealing a mess of newspaper-wrapped items. My shaving brush, a photo frame, a chipped mug that once read, "World's Okayest Dad." And resting on top like it always did, though I never remembered why I kept it, was the brass key. Faded label, 6B. That was my room. I held the key in my palm, cold, heavy, the kind of key you don't see anymore. It used to open something. Did it still? The door creaked open behind me. Mr. Linwood, always too cheerful, like he enjoyed pretending to care. He wore that same beige cardigan he thought made him look approachable, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Finch," he said, all smiles. "I'm glad you're already packed. Makes things smoother." "Packed?" My voice came out dry. "Yes, well, your extended courtesy stay here at Meadow Pines has ended. Officially." I blinked at him. "Courtesy? You weren't billed the last 3 months," he explained, flipping a page on his clipboard with performative flair. "Your account's been in arrears for a while, but out of kindness I let you remain while we sorted things. I don't remember not paying." "Memory's tricky, Mr. Finch." He leaned in just a bit. "Especially at your age." The insult was dressed in velvet, but it sliced just the same. "There's been no behavior issue, no health red flags," he continued. "We're simply making room for a higher need resident, you understand." I didn't, not in the way he wanted me to. I glanced down at the brass key in my hand. "This is my room," I said. 6B, been here 6 years. He chuckled. "Oh, you've bounced around. 4A, 2C before that. Room 6B was only yours briefly. You kept the key somehow. We've always meant to collect it." I shook my head. That wasn't right. I remembered 6B. "I want to talk to someone else," I said. "Management. That's me. Ownership." He gave me a smirk too wide for his face. "You're not in a position to make those requests." The box bumped my leg when I tried to stand. I nearly tipped. He didn't move to help. "Evelyn's at the desk," he offered. "She'll escort you out." Like a patient. Like a prisoner. The hall felt longer than it ever had. The floor tiles wobbled under my feet, or maybe I wobbled above them. Evelyn was already waiting at the front, her long grey braid tucked into her collar like it offended her to let it show. She didn't look surprised to see me, just tired. "They said I have to go," I told her. "I know," she said. "Do you know why?" Her jaw clenched. "Linwood says there's no funding left for you. Says your son stopped payment authorization." I stared at her. "Travis. Apparently. Something about power of attorney. I don't know. I just work nights." A long silence passed. "You don't belong here anyway," she said. "I've been here 6 years. And before that," I tried to think, "a blank stretch. The kind that went on too long and made people uncomfortable." "Why would I have a key to a room they say I never stayed in?" I asked. My fingers curled around it. I could feel the etching of the number 6B, like it was trying to tell me something I'd forgotten. Evelyn glanced around, lowered her voice. "You always carried that key, even before you got forgetful." "Why?" "One night," she said, her voice so quiet I had to lean in. "You told me you owned this place once. You said it like a confession, then you forgot." My heart thudded. "Still believe it?" she asked. I hadn't seen my son in 3 years, and now he looked like guilt in a tie. Travis stood in the cluttered waiting area of the law office like he was allergic to wood paneling. His suit was sharp, his jaw sharper, but his eyes, those were soft in a way I didn't remember. Maybe time had smoothed him down in places I'd never touched. "You're early," he said, not quite meeting my gaze. "Didn't realize I was coming." I replied. Someone else made that decision for me. His face twitched. Dad, don't start. Already started, I muttered, stepping inside. The office smelled like mildew and lemon disinfectant. A tired ceiling fan spun slowly overhead, clicking like it was chewing on time. We sat. He fiddled with his phone. I stared at the receptionist's plastic ficus plant. Why am I here, Travis? You asked to see legal records. His voice was clipped. Said something about owning Meadow Pines. Evelyn called me. Evelyn listens better than you do. She's not your nurse anymore. I bit down on the reply that almost leapt out. I wanted to shout that she was the only one who'd seen me, really seen me, in years. Instead, I said, I remember room 6B. Dad, I remember building something, I said. Not just living there, before it was Meadow Pines. Travis looked at me like I'd sprouted feathers. Look, we're here, he said, rising as the lawyer poked his head out. Let's just get through it. The lawyer, Caldwell, his name tag read, was younger than both of us. His office was a minefield of disorganized file boxes and open books. He seemed surprised to have a visitor who wasn't dead or suing someone who was. Mr. Finch, he said, we pulled your father's old estate folder from before the property changed hands. My brother's folder too, I asked. Caldwell blinked. Yes. There was a Joseph Finch involved. Let me... He rifled through a milk crate of manila folders. Ah, here. He handed over a faded envelope, yellowed, creased at the edges. I stared at it. A brass ink etching glinted faintly on the flap. A tiny key drawn with elegant curves. Familiar. My fingers trembled as I slid the contents free. A few receipts. A maintenance invoice for gravel delivery. And then a stub of parchment, cracked down the center from folding. Travis peered over my shoulder. What is that? A deed stub, Caldwell said, leaning in. It references the Meadow Pines parcel, before it was Meadow Pines. This land used to be subdivided into personal holdings. Workshop lots, mostly. I turned the paper around. My name was on it. My signature, uneven but unmistakable, co-signed by Joseph Finch. This is a co-ownership document, Caldwell said. Unusual phrasing, but I'd say this gives your father partial claim, assuming there was no formal dissolution when the property converted. Travis exhaled hard. Dad, did you know this? I didn't answer, because the truth was, something deep inside me had always known. That key, room 6B, it wasn't just to a room, it was to something I built, something I owned, something I was forced to forget. I want to see it again, I said. Room 6B. Travis frowned. You can't just walk back in. They'll call security. Let them, I said. My voice surprised me. I still have the key. I stood slowly. My legs were unsure, but my voice wasn't. You're coming with me. Why? Because you put me there, Travis. And now you're going to see why I never should have been sent away. He hesitated, then nodded once, stiffly. As we left, I slipped the deed back into the envelope. The brass key on the flap caught the light just so, and for a moment I could hear the creak of old wood, the rasp of sandpaper, the ring of a hammer. Memories not lost but buried. I was ready to dig. They said I couldn't come back. But I had the key, didn't I? Travis killed the headlights halfway down the access road. You're serious about this? He asked. You saw the deed, I said. That paper doesn't forget what people try to bury. Meadow Pines loomed ahead, dim against the night. The kind of dark that clings to windows like breath. The back entrance was supposed to be locked after 10, but Evelyn had given me a look when we left the law office, the kind that meant wait for the gap. I was betting she'd find a reason to leave it ajar. I shuffled across the gravel, brass key tucked deep in my palm. It was heavier tonight. Or maybe I was. I could hear the buzz of the security cameras pivoting above the awnings. But I knew where the blind spots were, used to walk this place like I carved it. Evelyn met us by the laundry room door. You've got 5 minutes, she whispered. Maybe 10 if Carl's on a bathroom break. Travis hung back. Evelyn tossed him a glare sharp enough to cut fabric. "You watching your father or casing the joint?" "Bit of both," he muttered. She turned to me. "6B hasn't been reassigned yet. Door still sticks on the left. You remember that?" "No," I admitted, "but maybe I will." And the hallway smelled like floor wax and canned green beans. Same as always, same as ever. We passed empty rooms with doors open just enough to show shadows inside. The silence was heavy, like everyone inside knew they were supposed to be asleep and were simply pretending. Then there it was, 6B. The number plate was crooked, a scuff mark below the handle like someone had once tried to kick it open. I held up the key. Travis snorted. "This is crazy." "So was building this place by hand," I said. "Did it anyway." I turned the key. It slid in like it had been waiting. The lock clicked. Inside, dust floated like fog. The blinds were half drawn, slices of moonlight striping the floor. The air was still, stale with the scent of age and something else. Cedar, faint but there, like the ghost of an old workshop. I stepped in. My legs hesitated, but my feet knew. There was a dresser pushed too close to the wall. Something about it didn't sit right. I bent down. A nail stuck out from the back panel. Odd. "Help me move this," I said. Travis grunted, but helped. Together we edged the dresser aside. Behind it, a panel in the wall. Narrow seams, barely visible. No knob. I reached into my pocket. The key. It didn't look like it belonged to this wall, but something made me press it against the edge, near the bottom right corner. Click. The panel popped slightly open. Travis took a step back. "What the hell?" I pulled it open. Inside was a shallow cavity, maybe 3 feet across, 2 feet high. Dusty but unmistakable, blueprints, drawn on brown paper, rolled and tied with twine. A level, a hammer worn smooth from use, and etched into the wood lining the back wall. Carvings, birds, 3 of them, mid-flight, each with wings spread like they were breaking free from the walls. My breath caught. I reached out, fingers tracing the grooves. "These are mine." "You made these?" "Not in a dream. Not a hallucination. These were real. I carved these birds before—" I stopped. The memory hovered just out of reach. Before this place was meadow pines. Travis reached in and lifted the blueprints carefully. "These are architectural drawings, foundation schematics." "Check the signature," I said. He did. "Joseph Finch and H. Finch." "We built the base," I said. "The first structure, before it became what it is now. It was our land, our shed. This was supposed to be my workshop. 6B. Not just a room. They renumbered the shed and called it a suite." He blinked. "They built the home around it?" "No. They built over it." I stood there, light slicing across my hands, dust catching the memories as they floated back. The weight in my chest wasn't sadness. It was recognition. This wasn't just proof. It was memory made solid. Travis looked at me differently now. "I want you to go," I said. "Why?" "Because what I remember next, I want to remember it alone." He nodded, hesitated, then left. I sat on the edge of the bed, brass key in hand, eyes locked on the carved birds. Somewhere behind them was my past. Somewhere inside them was my reason. The smell of sawdust hit me like a photograph I didn't remember taking. Travis had driven us to the edge of town, where the trees grew taller than the power lines, and the roads turned to cracked gravel. The old woodworking shed sat crooked behind the rusted fence, half swallowed by overgrown weeds. The door was warped, paint peeling in long strips like old wallpaper. "You sure about this?" Travis asked. I didn't answer, just stepped forward and wrapped my fingers around the iron latch. It groaned in protest, the kind of sound wood makes when it hasn't been touched by a human hand in years, but it opened. The air inside was thick with dust and memory. Every surface was coated in grey, every tool rusted into stillness. But underneath it all, I could feel something alive, a pulse in the wood grain, a warmth in the faded walls. I reached for the light pull, but the bulb only flickered and died. "Smells like rot." Travis said, wrinkling his nose. Smells like history, I replied. In the far corner, beneath a canvas tarp, lay the old workbench. I pulled the cover away gently. There they were, my chisels, dulled with time, my lathe, my old sketch pad, edges curled from humidity, still lying where I must have left it. And hanging on a crooked nail, just above the bench, was the ring of keys, 5 in total. Brass, steel, one bent almost into a curve. But one in particular stopped me, identical to the key in my pocket, room 6B. I held them side by side, same size, same teeth. You had this key back then? Travis asked. They weren't numbered rooms then, I said. It was just a workshop unit. A backlot Joe and I bought. He had the cash, I had the hands. Travis leaned against the doorframe. So why didn't I know any of this? I didn't look at him. You were 10 when Joe died. You don't remember the fights, the paperwork, the hospital bills. You remember me disappearing, but not why. You left, he said quietly. I thought you just couldn't handle Mom being gone. I couldn't, I admitted. But I also stayed to fix what was broken. Joe left me half the lot in his will, but I never finished probate. Never filed the conversion papers. The county took the land into receivership. I was too late and too tired to fight. So the property was still in your name? Partially. Enough to cause problems for whoever bought it later. But they built anyway. Didn't even check the records right. Travis exhaled. And now you're saying the place that kicked you out was built on my foundation, I finished. That's why room 6B always felt familiar. I carved those birds into the back wall. I stored my tools there. It was mine, long before someone assigned me a number. Travis moved through the room now, slower, more reverently. He picked up an old photo nailed to a beam. It showed me and Joe standing outside this same shed, arms around each other, holding mugs. The caption in my handwriting, "First wall goes up, 2010. Why didn't you ever tell me? He asked. Because I forgot, I said. Piece by piece, like losing keys down a drain. I remembered the ache in my hands, but not what caused it. The sound of a saw, but not the work. And when they handed me that room, part of me recognized it, but the rest had no words for it. Travis sat down on the stool by the bench. His voice was lower now. So what happens next? I handed him the folder we'd taken from the law office. This deed, the carving, the blueprints, they prove I have claim. Linwood used my lapse against me, evicted me without cause. You're thinking court? I'm thinking justice. He nodded slowly. You'd be up against lawyers, doctors who'll say you can't testify, a system that counts on you forgetting. Let them try, I said. I've got Evelyn, the blueprints, the key, and now you. Travis met my eyes. There was something there I hadn't seen since he was a boy. Trust, maybe, or belief. If this is true, he said, voice firmer now, you can take Linwood to court. I wasn't sure what I'd forget on the stand, only what I couldn't afford to. The courtroom was smaller than I imagined. Not like on television, just a square room with too much beige, flickering fluorescence and a wooden clock that ticked louder than anyone wanted it to. Travis sat behind me, knees bouncing. Evelyn stood by the door, arms crossed like a soldier, lips tight with something just short of rage. Mr. Linwood looked well rested. Crisp suit, polished shoes, that smug, polite smile he wore like a badge. He didn't acknowledge me when I entered. He didn't need to. The system already leaned in his direction. Your Honor, his attorney began, we are here to challenge what we believe is a frivolous claim by Mr. Finch, a man suffering from documented cognitive decline, who was graciously housed in our client's facility for nearly 6 years, often without full payment. The judge, a heavy-set man with tired eyes and a mustache like a broom, turned to me. Mr. Finch, are you able to speak for yourself today? I can, I said, rising slowly. I may forget what I had for breakfast, but I remember the sound of my brother's laugh when we laid the first foundation beam. A few quiet coughs in the gallery. Travis stiffened behind me. Go ahead, the judge said. Tell us what you're claiming. Ownership, I said. partial, through a deed signed by Joseph Finch and myself in 2010. That property was taken into receivership, then sold improperly. It became Meadow Pines. Room 6B sits on what used to be my workshop. Linwood leaned in, whispering to his attorney. A paper slid across the desk. "We have documentation of Mr. Finch's mental decline," the attorney said. "Evaluations from Meadow Pines staff. Multiple notations of confusion, disorientation, false memories." "May I respond?" Evelyn's voice cut clean across the room. The judge blinked. "Are you testifying, Ms. Sharp?" she said. "Night nurse, 10 years at Meadow Pines." "Approach." She stepped forward, wore her work shoes, still scuffed. Her braid was tighter than usual, as if every hair was holding the line. "Harold Finch may have moments where the fog rolls in," she said, "but I've watched him in room 6B. Something changes in him there. His hands get steady. He remembers names, events. He hums when he walks the walls. That room wakes something in him." The judge nodded slowly. "And you believe that ties to ownership?" "I believe it ties to truth." I stepped forward. My knees crackled, but I stood tall. "Your Honor, I've brought evidence. The co-signed deed. Workshop blueprints found inside a hidden panel in room 6B, accessed with a key I've had for over a decade. That same key opens the wall where the carvings are. Carvings I made before Meadow Pines even existed." Travis stood and handed the judge a sealed envelope. The judge opened it, scanned, then held up the brass key in a clear bag. "This key was found in the possession of Mr. Finch?" he asked. "Yes," Travis said, "always. Even before he was moved into the room." Linwood stood. "Your Honor, this is sentimental nonsense. Even if Mr. Finch co-owned land a decade ago, that claim has long expired." "Did you check the parcel records?" I asked. He paused. "Because I did," I continued, "and the Finch claim was never formally dissolved. The sale was rushed, the paperwork incomplete, and you, Mr. Linwood, have been charging residents on land that legally belongs, at least in part, to me." The courtroom was silent. The judge leaned back. "I want a recess, 20 minutes. I'm going to review this documentation and the original land filings." He looked at me, then at Linwood. "Mr. Finch," he said, voice slower now, "should this evidence hold, are you prepared to take over ownership?" My throat tightened. Evelyn's hand brushed mine. Travis looked at me like he was seeing someone he hadn't known since childhood. I nodded. "If it's mine to take," I said, "then I will. There's nothing quite like walking into a place they said you didn't belong and holding the deed in your hand. It wasn't grand, no parade, no announcement over the intercom. Just me, Harold Finch, walking through the double doors of Meadow Pines as its new owner. The brass plaque out front still bore someone else's name, but the papers in my jacket pocket said otherwise. Travis had the originals. I kept a copy close to my heart. Evelyn met me in the front lobby, arms crossed, eyes scanning me like she couldn't quite believe it. "It's real?" she asked. I held up the key. "Start here," I said, tapping it against my palm. "Everything started with this." She smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling like folded sheet music. About time. Linwood had been removed quietly, officially reassigned. I allowed him to leave with his dignity intact because I'd learned something through all this. Dignity isn't something you take from someone else to prove you still have it. It's something you either carry quietly or lose trying to protect too loudly. Travis had drawn up a severance package. Nothing generous, nothing cruel. Just an ending. Linwood didn't even say goodbye. I spent my first full day walking the halls, not as a patient, not as a tenant, but as someone reacquainting himself with the skeleton of something he once made. Room 6B was being aired out. Dust cleared. Panel left ajar so anyone could see the carvings. I told the staff it was to remain open, museum style. No new resident would stay there. It was memory now. Evelyn followed me up to the second floor, down to the southern wing. "What are you going to do with the space?" she asked. "Now that it's yours." "I was thinking," I said slowly, "about music." She raised an eyebrow. You told me once you used to sing, I said. She froze. Just a moment. Then a laugh escaped her lips like she hadn't meant to let it out. That was a long time ago. So was carving birds into walls, I said. But here we are. The corner suite that had sat empty for months, Evelyn's old room, was wide, with tall windows. I asked the maintenance crew to move in a small, upright piano, dig out some old music stands from the activities closet, and dust the windows. She didn't say anything at first, just stood in the center of the room, arms hanging at her sides, like she'd found something she thought she'd lost in another life. I can't promise anyone will come, she said. It's not about them, I said. It's about you. Later that afternoon, I unlocked a wooden box I kept by my bed and slid the brass key inside. On the lid, I had written in a shaky, deliberate hand, "Start here." That key had gotten me through too many doors, too many forgotten days, to be left rattling in a drawer. It was a relic now, a piece of something I'd reclaimed, not just ownership, not just land, but a thread of myself that had slipped away in the noise. In the lounge downstairs, Travis was setting up a bulletin board. "Activity calendar," he explained. "Thought we could modernize a bit, add some structure." "You staying?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know yet. But I'm not leaving." That was enough for now. Evelyn pressed a key on the piano, testing the sound. Soft, slightly out of tune, but it rang out like a memory. Down the hall, someone opened a window. Wind carried the scent of mown grass and late sun. I walked slowly, head high, not because I owned the place, but because I had earned it, twice over, once with my hands, once with my name. Travis looked up from his clipboard. "You ever think of building again?" Some days the fog rolls in, but here I remember what I made and what I took back. My workshop room wasn't big, but it was mine. The windows faced east, so the mornings came in early and full of light. I'd asked for a pegboard along one wall, space for my tools, even if I barely used them now. A few chisels, a handsaw, a box of old nails. Just holding them gave me steadier hands. The staff didn't always understand. They thought this was therapeutic, which was fine. They called it a hobby room in the activity chart Travis put up. But I knew better. This was the heart, the bones, my roots, hammered into the walls like promises I once made and forgot. Today, I carved, not with speed, not like I used to, but with care. My knuckles ached, my fingers cramped. Still, the bird took shape slowly beneath my hands. A small one, wings stretched, beak open in a cry or a song. I wasn't sure which, maybe both. It went beside the other carvings I'd managed to transfer from room 6B. We'd removed the panel carefully, installed it into this new wall like an artifact. Visitors sometimes came to look at it. Nurses on breaks, residents in wheelchairs who remembered better days. Some smiled, others cried. I never minded either. The brass key hung just above the carving, dulled now, polished only by memory. I'd mounted it on a small wooden plaque Evelyn helped me paint. One word carved beneath, "Mine." She played piano some evenings now. Started softly at first, just scales and broken chords. Then a full aria one night, voice barely above a whisper. When she sang, the residents didn't move, didn't cough, didn't speak. It was like she stitched the room together with sound. Travis visited often, never in a rush anymore. He'd sit by the window, read the paper aloud, ask about the carvings. Sometimes he brought paperwork, ideas for restructuring, questions about what I remembered of the building's bones. We never said the word forgiveness, but we stopped needing to. I still forgot things. Breakfasts, names, what day it was. But the fog didn't scare me now, because here, in this room, I had left pieces of myself nailed to the walls. I could reach out and touch them when the rest drifted away. I once feared dying forgotten. Now I knew better. Because memory isn't just what we carry, it's what we leave behind in places that meant something. In rooms we built, keys we kept, and names we dared to carve into grain and dust. And this was mine. I wiped the sweat from my brow and blew the sawdust from the bird's wings. The sun hit just right. The brass key caught it, and for a second it glinted like gold. I whispered, "They thought I was just a name on a list." But I remember now. I built the list.